Men over 60 never eat these 3 vegetables. They kill testosterone fast. He stood in front of the mirror, staring at the man he barely recognized. His shoulders looked smaller, his chest softer, and his energy gone. At 64, Dan thought he was just aging. But deep down, something felt off. He was eating healthy, walking daily, even taking vitamins. Still, his strength was fading, his mood was low, and his drive?
Almost vanished.
Doctors blamed age. But one quiet night, while scrolling online, he saw a headline, "Men over 60. Never eat these 3 vegetables. They kill testosterone fast." His heart skipped. Vegetables. Weren't they supposed to help? He clicked. What he read shook him. These weren't rare or exotic vegetables. They were in his fridge every week. Without knowing, he was slowly draining his testosterone, meal after meal. That night, Dan threw them out. What happened in the next 60 days changed everything. His body, his energy, and even his confidence. Want to know what he discovered? Most men over 60 believe that losing strength, energy, and confidence is just a natural part of aging. But what if that's not true? What if something on your dinner plate is silently draining your manhood, day after day? That's exactly what happened to Dan. Like many others, he trusted what he thought were healthy foods. But hidden inside 3 common vegetables were compounds that quietly attacked his testosterone, the hormone that fuels muscle, drive, and vitality. These vegetables didn't just slow him down. They made him feel like a shell of the man he once was. He didn't notice at first. It started with fatigue, then weight gain, and finally, the spark in his relationship faded. He blamed age. But when he finally discovered the real cause, everything changed.
Dan se ne tia doctor.
He's just a man who wanted to feel alive again. And when he stopped eating these 3 vegetables, that spark returned. What is testosterone and why it matters after 60? Testosterone isn't just a hormone. It's what gives a man his edge, his strength, stamina, confidence, and drive. It's the silent force behind muscle growth, sharp thinking, deep sleep, and even a healthy heart. But here's the truth no one talks about. After 60, testosterone levels drop faster than most men realize. And when that happens, everything begins to change. You feel tired more often, workouts feel harder, and even simple tasks leave you drained. But it's not just about energy.
Lo testosterone steals your motivation, your mood, and your manhood.
That's what was happening to Dan. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't weak. His body was being quietly robbed of testosterone. And the worst part? He was feeding the thief himself. Every meal, every salad, every healthy snack was pushing his hormone levels even lower. These weren't sugary drinks or fast food. These were vegetables he had trusted for years. Foods he believed were good for him. But inside those foods were hidden compounds, plant toxins, hormone disruptors, and inflammation triggers that targeted the very system keeping him strong.
Dan had no idea. Most men don't.
Because no one tells them. The drop feels so normal that they accept it. But the truth is, testosterone decline doesn't have to be a life sentence. Once Dan removed those 3 specific vegetables, everything began to shift.
His workouts came back to life.
His energy returned. And something deeper, his confidence as a man, rose again. Now let's talk about those vegetables, and the science behind them. The shocking truth about healthy vegetables. Dan always believed vegetables were the healthiest part of his diet. Like most men, he filled his plate with greens, tomatoes, soy-based foods, and flax-packed smoothies. He thought he was doing everything right. But the truth was hidden deep inside those choices, compounds that silently blocked his body's ability to make testosterone. These weren't just random chemicals. They were naturally found in plants and sold as health boosters. But inside a man's body, they could be toxic to his hormones. Scientists call them phytoestrogens, lectins, and oxalates. What they do is disturbing. They mimic female hormones, increase inflammation, and block testosterone production at the source. Dan didn't feel the damage right away. It was slow, invisible, like rust eating through steel. One day he was lifting weights. A few months later, even standing from a chair felt harder. His mind was foggy, his moods darker. Still, he kept eating those same vegetables, thinking they were helping him stay young. That's the real danger. They don't look harmful. In fact, they're praised on every health blog and fitness magazine. But what works for a 30-year-old woman isn't always good for a 65-year-old man.
That's what no one tells you.
Dan found this out the hard way. But once he understood the truth, he was ready to take back control. He didn't need pills or injections. He just needed to stop eating the foods that were quietly killing his testosterone. Let's start with the first one. It's in almost every health kitchen, and it's worse than you think. Vegetable number 1: soy products. Dan never suspected soy. It was everywhere: soy milk in his morning shake, tofu in his lunch, and even edamame as a light dinner snack. It was low in fat, high in protein, and praised by every diet blog he followed. He believed it was helping him stay lean and healthy. But behind that healthy label, soy carries a dangerous secret: phytoestrogens. These plant-based compounds mimic estrogen, the primary female hormone. And when they enter a man's body, they confuse the system.
Testosterone production slows.
Fat begins to replace muscle. And gradually, energy fades, mood shifts, and bedroom confidence disappears. Dan didn't know any of this. All he noticed was that he felt off. His workouts had no spark. He was sleeping more but waking up tired. His face looked softer in the mirror. He thought it was just age. But then he read a research article showing how even moderate soy intake can drop testosterone by up to 20% in older men. That was the first red flag. The second came when he talked to a friend, another retired Marine, who had cut out soy completely. "Took about 4 weeks," his friend said, "and I felt like myself again." Dan immediately stopped. Within days, he felt sharper. In 2 weeks, his energy returned. In a month, he was lifting more, walking faster, and laughing again. Soy wasn't the whole problem, but it was the first trap. And millions of men are still walking into it daily, thinking it's doing them good. But the science doesn't lie. Soy is not a friend to testosterone. And it's just the beginning. The next vegetable hides in health foods and smoothies, and it's doing even more damage. Vegetable number 2: flax seeds and flax-based veggies. After quitting soy, Dan felt better, but something was still off. His energy was back, but his mood swung without warning. He was still tired after lunch, and the spark that had started returning felt dim again. He thought he had cleaned up his diet. But one small habit was silently dragging him down: flax seeds. Every morning, he sprinkled them into his smoothie, thinking they were heart-healthy and packed with fiber. That's what the label said. But buried in the fine print of medical research was a dangerous truth. Flax seeds are one of the richest sources of lignans, plant compounds that mimic estrogen, just like soy, but even stronger. For women, they can support hormone balance. But for men over 60, they can crush testosterone. Lignans bind to hormone receptors, blocking the signals that tell the body to produce more testosterone. Dan had no idea. He thought he was doing something good for his heart, but he was slowly weakening his hormonal foundation. The signs were subtle: less drive, stubborn belly fat, and short tempers. One day, while reading an article about foods that sabotage male hormones, he saw flax seeds listed right next to soy. It clicked. He dumped the bag in the trash that same day. Within weeks, his mood evened out, his motivation climbed, and something deeper shifted: his mental clarity sharpened. His workouts became smoother. His mind felt alert again. The difference was undeniable.
What is worse?
Flax hides in protein bars, cereals, multigrain crackers, and even veggie patties. Most men don't realize they're eating it daily. But once you understand what it does, you'll see why Dan cut it immediately. Still, there was one more food, one that seemed innocent, even comforting, but it was attacking his testosterone from a different angle: inflammation. Vegetable number 3: nightshades, especially eggplant and tomatoes. Dan thought tomatoes were harmless. He loved his homemade pasta sauce, roasted eggplant, and even spicy salsa. These were comfort foods, simple, tasty, and part of his routine for years. But behind that delicious flavor was something destructive. Nightshade vegetables like tomatoes, eggplant, and even bell peppers contain lectins and solanine, plant chemicals known to trigger chronic inflammation. At first, Dan didn't make the connection. He just noticed his joints were stiffer, his belly was bloated, and his energy dropped after dinner. He blamed aging or maybe stress. But one night, while reading about testosterone and inflammation, he found the missing link. Inflammation is the silent killer of male hormones. When your body is inflamed, your cells become resistant to the signals that trigger testosterone production. Over time, it breaks the entire hormonal chain. Dan remembered a study showing that chronic inflammation could lower free testosterone by up to 30% in aging men. That hit hard.
And suddenly, it all made sense.
The nights he had pasta, he woke up sore. The more tomatoes he ate, the more sluggish he felt. He cut them out for 1 month.
Just 30 days.
The result was shocking. His knees stopped aching, his gut flattened, and his morning energy returned. Even his sleep improved. He felt like his body could breathe again. Dan never imagined vegetables could cause this much harm. But the combination of hormone-disrupting compounds and silent inflammation had been pulling him down. Nightshades may be healthy for some, but not for men over 60 who are trying to protect and restore their testosterone. Cutting them was the final step. And with that, Dan had removed all 3 hidden threats. But what did he eat instead? That's where real transformation began. What to eat instead? Dan didn't just remove the problem foods. He replaced them with powerful, testosterone-boosting alternatives. Once he eliminated soy, flax, and nightshades, he needed the right fuel to rebuild what had been lost. That's when he discovered 3 natural allies: spinach, avocado, and garlic. These weren't trendy superfoods. They were simple, accessible, and deeply effective. Spinach is rich in magnesium, a mineral shown to increase free testosterone levels, especially in older men. Dan added it to his breakfast omelet and post-workout smoothies. Next was avocado, full of healthy fats and vitamin B6, which support testosterone production and lower cortisol, the stress hormone that drains energy and blocks muscle growth. 1 avocado a day helped Dan feel calmer, stronger, and more focused. But the real surprise came from garlic. Not only did it flavor his meals, but studies revealed it boosts luteinizing hormone, which tells the body to make more testosterone naturally. Within 3 weeks of adding these foods, Dan felt different, sharper, lighter, more alive. He wasn't just surviving, he was performing. His belly shrank, his strength returned, and his confidence soared. It wasn't magic. It was nutrition, honest, real food that worked with his body instead of against it. And he wasn't alone. Men everywhere are discovering that a few smart changes can flip the switch. You don't need expensive supplements or risky treatments. Sometimes, all it takes is knowing what to remove and what to eat instead. Dan made the switch, and it changed everything. Now you can too. Dan didn't need a doctor to fix him. He needed the truth. The truth that 3 so-called healthy vegetables were slowly taking away his strength, his energy, and his identity as a man. But when he removed them and replaced them with real, testosterone-friendly foods, everything changed. He didn't just feel better, he felt alive. His mornings started with clarity. His workouts felt powerful. And for the first time in years, he looked in the mirror and saw a man he was proud of. This wasn't a miracle. It was a choice, a small, silent decision to stop accepting weakness and start fighting back. If Dan hadn't clicked that headline, he might still be tired, frustrated, and lost. But now, he's proof that it's never too late to change. If you're over 60 and feel like your fire is fading, maybe it's not age. Maybe it's what's on your plate. Choose wisely. Your vitality depends on it.